Hello, I'm Alister McGrath, Professor of Science and Religion at Oxford University, where I also direct the Ian Ramsay Centre for Science and Religion. I want to welcome you to this series of 27 short talks, which are going to introduce you to the fascinating field of science and religion. And lots of people have asked us to produce these lectures, and they've asked us also to keep them short. So they're short. They're less than 10 minutes long each. And these are sketch maps of the fascinating landscape of science and religion. They survey the issues and they give you the kind of context you'll need to take things further on your own. They're here to whet your appetite. You need to go deeper on your own. Now, I spent most of my life as a student and then as an academic at Oxford University, which of course traces its origins back to the early Middle Ages. It's a really interesting place to study and to teach, especially, of course, the natural sciences and Christian theology. Both of those go way back to the Middle Ages here in Oxford. And I want to talk to you about why this is so interesting, because it seems to me we all need to know why this is an important field. I think it seems to me that the really important thing here is it allows us to begin to reflect on two interconnected sets of questions. One is a question of, how does this universe function? What's it all about? And then secondly, there are questions about meaning and value. Why is the universe here? Why are we here? And the field of science and religion allows you to kind of look at both those. It's about opening up a wider vista. It's about allowing you stereoscopic vision. So let me emphasize again that these are short presentations. They're here to get you interested, to give you a sense of what's there, introduce you to some names, some ideas, and then allow you to take these things further on your own. But before we begin to look at this fascinating field, I want to tell you a little bit more about myself, because I began my career as a natural scientist. And actually I was drawn to the natural sciences by a love of the beauty and the mystery of our natural world. I think it was also a longing to understand more about this mysterious and strange universe in which we find ourselves. Now, my first degree from Oxford as an undergraduate was in chemistry, where I specialised in quantum theory. That was great fun. It allowed me to specialise in writers like Albert Einstein and Werner Heisenberg. And then I switched slightly. I did my doctoral research at Oxford in biological sciences, really looking at how we can use sophisticated physical methods to look at how biological membranes function. And then I changed direction again and started studying Christian theology, and ended up as Oxford's Professor of Historical Theology for 10 years, and am now. So this is a fascinating topic. And I want to begin to ask where we should start our explorations. And I think the best place to start is actually a feeling of awed wonder that so many people experience at the beauty and the majesty of nature. And when I was a researcher in Oxford University's Department of Biochemistry back in the 1970s, I spent a summer travelling with a colleague in Iran, and we had a wonderful time exploring its historical sites, its cities, including the ancient city of Persepolis. But on one occasion, we travelled on a night bus through the vast desert between the cities of Shiraz and Kerman, and there are no population centres there. It was a desert road. It was completely dark at night. Now, we travelled on a rather old bus, which looked as if it had seen rather better days, perhaps going back to the 1950s. It was in an advanced state of decay, and I suppose it wasn't a great surprise when it broke down in the middle of the desert. And we all had to get off the bus in total darkness while the driver tried to fix the engine. So we stepped into the dark silence of the desert night. There was no moon. There was no light pollution. And let me tell you that I saw the stars that night as I had never seen them before. They were brilliant, solemn, and still in the midst of a dark and silent landscape. And I was simply overwhelmed by a sense of immensity and vastness. I think it's very hard for me to put into words that overwhelming feeling of awe. I experienced that night years ago, a sense of exaltation or amazement. And if you've had an experience like that, you'll know exactly what I mean. Everything seemed to stand still. I think that's what Albert Einstein had in mind when he talked about his rapturous amazement at the immensity and the vastness of our universe. So that leads us to science. You want to understand, what is this universe all about? How did it come to be here? And for some people, this experience of awe and wonder is an end in itself. There's nothing beyond it, nothing behind it. You just enjoy the experience for what it is. Aristotle, of course, saw this experience of wonder as a starting point for the journey of discovery into what we would now call the natural sciences. But in my own case, I find it also was a starting point for another journey of discovery, and that was in the direction of religious faith. Now, in the next presentation, I'm going to tell you a little bit more about my own journey of discovery and exploration and why I got interested in this interdisciplinary field of science and religion. I'm sure many of you listening to me will have comparable stories to tell. So thank you so much for listening. And I look forward to speaking to you again very soon as I tell you more about how I got interested in this field and where it took me.